So we have a just amazing lineup tonight, and I need you all to like be responsive to the performers when they get up here, right? I need you to give them a little bit of energy. We're like leeches a little bit. We feed off the energy you give us. So I'm gonna need you to respond to the artist. I'm gonna need you to clap or snap or ooh and ah when you like something. Es- Especially for our students because they're a little bit new to this, but that's besides the point. They're still amazing, but we want you to encourage them because we want them to keep doing this, right? We want them to have an amazing experience, and I want them to continue to show up and show out and have a platform to actually, bare their soul. So we're gonna get right into it. Can we practice a little bit? Right. I love it. Assignment understood. Okay, coming up to the stage first, I guess I should introduce myself, shouldn't I? My name is Kimolee Eryn. I am a spoken word poet, a novelist, an essayist, a screenwriter, a creative director, producer, and I am the program coordinator for the Poetry Out Loud program. One of my most recent memories, it was facilitating a poetry workshop virtually, and my poetry coach from high school, she hopped on because she wanted to, get information about it for her students. And I remember her being like, just the person that pushed me to do poetry. I wrote before, but I didn't perform. She facilitated my first performance, and just like everything I do now is because she showed me it was possible. So being on the call with her that day and, having her see what I've become, me being her, essentially facilitating poetry for other students, it was a full circle moment, and I cried. I have to say, life experiences keep me writing. It's one of those things that I can't be finished with writing because I'm still living, I'm still experiencing things, and writing is how I figure out life and how I make sense of everything. And the performance end of it, it's like, it only makes sense to share it. After putting that much thought and that much work into it, I have to know that it makes sense to more than just me. And so sharing it kind of just gives me that validation, like, yes, you're not alone going through this, and thank you for writing it and sharing it. I want to do a lot of things, and I don't think it all requires poetry, but it all stems from poetry. I'm getting a little bit deeper into film, and everything that I write, it kind of has this tinge of poetry in it. Again, because that's how I started, and so everything that I do kind of has that essence to it. Knowing what I want as a poet, knowing what I need as a poet, it helps me to put together opportunities for students, for like everybody that I work with, because I think as artists, we know what we want, but like when it comes to actually going out there and getting it, I think we are hesitant because, imposter syndrome and then just all the other things we battle. So I'm more capable of putting things together for other people than for myself. And so it's mostly for other people and then a little bit myself. And then, it becomes a space that we all come together. It becomes a community, and then it's good for all of us. So this means a lot to me to be able to put together things like this for our teaching artists and our students, and for them to be able to get together, learn from each other, and just create this amazing community of poets. So that's why we're here tonight. We're celebrating poetry, and we're celebrating our teaching artists and our students. So now put your hands together for Z.
Hi, my name is Z Yan. I'm a junior in high school, and I've been writing basically since whenever I can remember. Yeah, I love writing. The memory I'm going to share is from my time at the Iowa Young Writers Studio. So this is actually kind of a fun memory. My friends and I were in a stairwell, and I just remember we were talking about all different kinds of poetry. We were like singing, we were like dropping our wallet from like the top floor and trying to see how many floors we could go and still catch it at the bottom. And I think just the idea of like being in a stairwell was really, it sort of resonated with me, like as it was similar to the experience of being in Iowa, because it was so isolated from the rest of the world, yet it was able to be so resonant and help me make so many discoveries in my own writing life. That was really, really powerful for me. What keeps me writing, I think, essentially is the idea of connection, because I think in our world today, like, people have so many different identities within themselves and also, like, in the way that they relate to other people, that it's hard to really connect with people on a deep level, especially without, like, splintering sort of your own identity. So I think poetry is really a good mechanism to, like, rectify those gaps, both internally and with other people, and it really communicates things that, like, they don't really come up in daily life, or like they like bring together the far reaches of life that we normally wouldn't think to be together. And I think that really makes for a cool and really powerful connective experience. And then at the same time, I think that it's also really heartening how in poetry every single word is actually valuable, especially since today a lot of things feel like they have become more of a commodity. So I'm a little bit newer to the idea of performing, but what makes performance really stand out to me is that there's no emotion that's like wrong. I think in daily life it can be very tempting to want to like repress your emotions, or it's a lot more convenient just to like either not feel things or like pretend you don't feel things. So I think performance is really a good space for recognizing the parts of us that are essential to our humanity that like aren't really recognized in the normal world. There's a lot of things that I'm actually looking forward to in the future. Last summer, I started this literary magazine called The Dawn Review, and we're doing editor applications now, so I think like further developing that and also picking like our nominations for Pushcart and Best of the Net is something I'm looking forward to. And then in terms of my own writing, obviously continuing to submit to like publications, contests, and then I'm also working on a chapbook manuscript, so submitting to chapbook contests is also a thing that's going on. And then next year in my school, this is cool, I'm going to be running a poetry club. So normally in my school we don't do a lot of poetry, much less performance poetry. So I'm really looking forward to bringing forward more of those aspects in my local community. And then I think just beyond, like in college, I definitely want to write, like regardless of what I do with my career, I'm always going to be a writer as a person.
I write you a love poem, and you ask me why it's so girlish. The world is full of real problems, and all I can peel back for you are words. Racing, bleeding, pacing, pounding words that resound like a heartbeat, but you say I am being melodramatic. My emotions are better kept in the attic. You watch a live heart beating on the page and call it cute. Yet you still want my heartstrings. You want to hold my heartstrings in your hand. My words are no law to a man like you. My stanzas are no body, and so my poem is nothing to love. So let me rephrase myself. My words follow nobody's law. My stanzas want no man like you, and this poem is not a love poem.
It's always amazing when anybody gets up and they perform like from memory, because right. I'm gonna actually perform later after everybody else, and so I'm just gonna warn you now. I might stumble because my memory kind of gets fuzzy up there. Coming up next to the stage is one of our OG teaching artists. I call him the Godfather. Put your hands together. Put your hands together for Mickey Correa.
My name's Mickey. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, and I went to Trinity College and I majored in English, so that's where I get my poetry stuff from. Now I work at the YMCA and I teach yoga. One core memory that I wouldn't have had without poetry is probably performing my first poem. I was about like 10 years old, went up in front of the class and just performed some little poem that I jotted down for like 10 seconds during class. And it got my performance jitters out of the way, and I had butterflies and all of that, but it was cool. I'll always remember that. I remember that whenever I perform. What keeps me writing is my family. My mom was a poet. She published her first book and first and only book when she was around my age. So after I graduated college, I went and self-published my own book. And then after that, I just kept on writing. My family is very important to me. They keep me going. They're definitely my drive. So, telling our story and telling my stories through poems, and the story of our surroundings in Hartford, Connecticut, that's where my family is from, and we all grew up there, definitely keeps me writing. Performing is actually not one of my favorite things to do. I just gotten really good at it over the years of doing it. And I like doing it each time because it's a challenge for me. It's one of the hardest things that I do, performing. And I feel like I show my truest and best self when I'm performing. I feel like, not to be like vulgar or anything, but I feel like I'm naked in front of the crowd. So I like to just put it all out there truthfully. My vision, I'm actually living the vision right now. In college, I wanted to, after I finished my thesis, I wanted to be like this famous poet and, known all over the world. But, years after, because I graduated during COVID, so years after, when I was just writing in my room because I couldn't go anywhere, I started, reading up on more poets, and doing a lot of spiritual, learning and looking within and a lot of things in that nature. And once I figured out that I could just self-publish my own books and do whatever I wanted with my poetry and make sure it's the way how I want it to be, I was like, well, yeah, let me just do it, bet, word. And I've been doing that ever since. So I've been an independent published author for about 3.5 years now. So yeah, that's my vision. I'm living it. What's up? I just gotta get used to my voice. I don't use microphones a lot. I like to give my poems titles, so this one is titled, I Have No Idea What I'm Doing. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. 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 I did not properly prepare for this performance. But I have a good reason why. I was going on family vacation for a week, and everybody was excited. We was all happy. And then all of a sudden, somebody near and dear to my family's hearts transitioned, or what we would call generally passed away. So how could I write poetry when that happened? I wasn't able to be there for the people that I loved because I was away. I wasn't able to do the things that I would normally do because I was away. But for me, I see poetry as a peaceful practice, something full of love and void of talent, something that everybody can use to keep their balance. So I wrote poetry. Now, I'm not gonna say poetry saved me or anything like that, but poetry definitely did help. It calmed my nerves, it helped me breathe, it helped all the scrambled thoughts that look like yellow yolk get on the page and help me be in the present. And that's what poetry is. Poetry is a peaceful practice full of love and void of talent. Poetry is something that is in conjunction with the Tao or with your faith, anything. Like spiritual. It's like mist in the air, something you can't see, but you feel it when it's there. So I say this, poetry is a peaceful practice full of love and void of talent. Thank you.
One more time for Mickey. It really takes a lot to share some of the most vulnerable things in our lives, to share feelings, to even let people know we have feelings. It's kind of we're human, so duh, but also, do I really want to let you know the extent of it, is what it comes down to. So hats off to everybody that gets up here and actually shares. Coming up next, one of our students actually kind of got built into the foundation of our creative writing program. When we decided we wanted to add creative writing to the recitation program, she was there, she was willing, she was ready, and she shared and gave it all. So put your hands together. Welcome to the stage, Miss Sunny Sky.
My name is Sunny Sky. What I do is I make poetry with emotions and events that I occur all the time. It's just it's based on memories to me, and it's based on what I'm feeling. I'm also still a high school student. I graduate in less than 2 months, actually. So I'm almost done with that, and then I'm going to go to college, right into college. I'm not taking a gap year. No, I'm going right into my education. One of my core memories that I wouldn't have had without poetry is getting that email that I made it to the final round on my first competition ever with Kimolee. I placed second in the state. That made me feel like my words matter, made me feel like I have a place in poetry. It just made me feel complete. It made me want to keep doing this. So I wouldn't be here without Kimolee. What keeps me writing is what happened when I first started to write. It made me feel like I know what I'm talking about. It makes me feel complete. It makes me feel like I know where I'm going and what time. It makes me feel just free. I can do what I want with my own words, and no one can take that away from me. What inspires me to keep performing is basically the audience. All the feedback I get, what I can do better in, what I already am good at. That really keeps me pushing forward and make me want to do more. My vision for my future as a poet is to have multiple anthologies and performances. I want to make people, not make people, but I want people to hear what I have to say, because everyone has their own voice. I want to encourage that for other people if they are interested in poetry. So I want to make that known.
Can we just give it up one more time for the two, because of their memory? First of all. Because I know my poetry is not memorized, but that's okay. An African seed. I grow so proudly and not cowardly because I am an African seed. So I have the need to proceed so I can succeed. But I have no choice. I didn't choose this way, and neither did my parents. It was given to me because the person in the spirit above knew that I can take what's coming across of me. But being a seed, I will get stepped on. But that's not gonna stop me from growing. After getting walked all over, not yet knowing if I'm a four-leaf clover from all the sun's exposure, the nutrients of intellect, education, and mind manipulation beams through the sun rays, and some days it's hotter than what it displays. This is an ongoing phase, but I used to wonder when I will no longer grow. Little did I know, I will always grow and prosper and shine better than a copper. I will have the intellect education with a dash of mind manipulation because that's how Americans be. I will know the education of population, and I will never be silent from knowing a lot of information, taking no degradation from a conversation, from a situation. I know how strong a seed can be. But sometimes I do have doubt in me, but I can guarantee at any degree, and some of you might disagree, but you cannot foresee the mentality in me. But making moves in my poems plays over and over in my head like a DVD, but here's the key. To be or to not to be, no one else will see or be me, an African seed.
I told her this before, but she really gives me Lauryn Hill vibes. She need to do a little album or something called The Miseducation of Sunny Sky. I'll produce it for you when I figure out how to. Coming up next, we have a student who is fairly new to our program, but she came through and just blew us away, so much so that she made it onto the Connecticut Youth Slam team this year. Put your hands together for June.
My name is June Scotus. I'm a junior in high school. And yeah, I basically just started doing poetry like a year ago, and here I am. A couple months ago, this February, my friend put together this slam poetry night and invited me to perform at it. And I'd done some like performing other poetry before, but that was my first time speaking my own poetry in front of an audience. And it was just really cool to see it kind of take on a life outside of my own. What keeps me writing is I kind of think of poetry as like a place where just all of those fleeting thoughts that you have that you might go like, oh, that's maybe not kind or maybe not super true or like not nuanced, as a place where you can like really flood those out and just see where you go with them. And I think you learn a lot about yourself through that. And I think that I'm never gonna stop having those thoughts, and I'm never gonna stop having more to learn about myself. And so I think that's why I keep writing. What keeps me performing is what thoughts that I've had and things that I've put together that are so personal to me, and sort of seeing that in somebody else's brain that's not mine, and just sort of seeing how other people interact with what I write that's so personal to me that could be personal to them. I started poetry not even like meaning to start it. I kind of just thought, hey, this is something cool and my friend is doing it and I might as well just try it just to gain new experiences. And it has so taken a life of its own that I just did not expect. And I'm kind of just riding the wave, and I think I'm just gonna see. And if it does continue into some kind of career, if I can continue performing it, that's great. But I think no matter what, I'm gonna keep writing, even if just for myself.
Juliet was 13, you know, when old Bill played. When in fair Verona we laid our scene, not hers, in fair Verona, oh happy fair, where we laid down her life, twice dead, come back just to leave, to teach us, to pity the naive. 13 when they began their masquerade, when for loving their cross stars they evade. 13 when her father forbade, wouldn't you? Capulet or Montague, who cares, she was barely a teen. A rose by any other age would smell as sweet, oh be some other age. 13 when Tybalt fell, and still she stayed, when for one night next to a killer, years of love were betrayed. 13 when Romeo, 20-something, prayed upon our star-crossed heroine, hooked on the Montague morphine that made love and life seem an easy trade. By 13, with Holy Palmer's kiss, it was all too late. I'm not saying victim, but we all know her fate. My friends fall in love around me. I have not yet been so unlucky. A few crushes here and there, but nothing to have struck me as anything but the trifling affections of puppies, all just oxytocin and not enough to have stuck me. There's this one friend. The word friend may be a stretch, though. To this day, still unclear if friend or foe, but that's another story. One of selfishness and woe. Festering anger and digressions untold, but I digress. Let us call them Romeo. Romeo falls in love at the drop of a hat, dropping Rosaline for Juliet, only to return to yesterday's fairest pet. Dabble in Mercutio, obsess over every Capulet, spend a month on Benvolio, hell, fall for Tybalt and collect the whole set. I have been the object of Romeo's attraction many a time. Do not mistake, I use object in the literal kind. I have never been more than a prop. All my fair Rosalines and sweet Juliets know that Romeos know just how to make your stomach drop. We all know the feel of knowing they fell. It sounds like, there's this girl I like, you know her really well. And I, fair Rosaline, am left to wonder about this friendship we call. Is it anything but a stall? A single point in the waiting game until I fall. And Juliet was 13. And we all were 13, 14, 15, 16. Here we are, and nothing has changed. I look around at all my friends, and I am the only one who has remained unable to consign myself to double suicide, the only one able to put all the blue aside and realize that your puppy's love is nothing but a transaction.
giving hugs and kisses and dignity for a distraction from the fact that your tragic flaws will come to light. I can see it written in the stars. Your future is not so bright, but you would rather take another in your flight just to save yourself from sleeping alone at night. Cowardice, they call it sometimes. Not even self-preservation, just buying time. I find that my kind will give anything for peace of mind. Oh, what I would give for that peace of their minds that let me be whisked away to the land of love and lies. The land of blissful Juliets, not woe-ridden Rosalines, but alas, I am not one inclined to pine, and perhaps my stars have been crossed to shine upon me the sin of cynicism, no, the crime. Life in prison while you kill yourself inside the cell in the tomb upon Juliet's chest. Sharpen your happy daggers, friends. But as the curtain comes down, I'll still be around when your story ends.
I want to take a vote right here, right now, that we cancel all of our Shakespeare literature in school and we put June's poems in there in Percival, right? The ayes have it. One more time for June, that was fantastic. So short story long, because I don't know how to do short, except for my height. My poetry coach in high school, the person that kind of got me here by proxy, I reached out to her and asked for students, and I trust her. Like I trust her when it comes to poetry, and also my life, because I kind of put it in her hands a couple times. I asked for students. I'm like, I want more students in this program, and so she sent me a student, and I trust her, so I believe that we're gonna witness some greatness. Put your hands together for Sam Vasquez.
My name is Samantha Vasquez. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm a poet. One core memory I wouldn't have had without poetry is the first poetry meeting I had at my high school poetry club. It was really just something phenomenal for me. It was my first time sharing my poetry with other people, and I was really nervous about it, but I received great constructive criticism and feedback. What keeps me writing is just living and experiencing the things I do. I think it's a natural thing for me. When I experience an event or an emotion, I go to write about it. This will actually be my first real performance. I'm very excited about it. It's been something I've been really nervous about, but I think it's the next step for me as a poet. It's something out of my comfort zone, but I've been really excited for it. I think my vision for myself as a poet would include a lot of different things. I want to keep writing forever, even if it doesn't include other people consuming my writing. But I'd love to one day maybe publish a book of my poetry. That's always been a dream of mine. And I'd also love to continue performing after this. You have sought refuge in me a few too many times for me to be anything but home. Use my bones to build a shelter. Hang my soul from the ceiling for light. Use my flesh for insulation. You always tell me how I'm warm. Throw away the parts of me you can't make use of. Make the rest yours. Not yours in the way I wish, but yours nonetheless. I wish to be loved by you, but I can settle for this. I can settle for being your refuge when you have nowhere else to go, but you leaving whenever you find somewhere new to be. At least this way, I am needed by you. I would do anything to be needed by you. So of course, I'd let you do this. Let you use me until there is nothing left. Until I am nothing but a ruin. Only the remnants of what you have made me. your failed project, your throwaway, but still yours.
Right? I forget, like, I don't know, because I'm in my own head a lot, I forget, like, what age emotions like that start. I kind of felt some shallow things when I was a kid, like, middle school, high school, I still had Disney Channel feelings. Blame my parents, because that's all I could watch. But I didn't have language to describe my feelings like that. So when I hear students like read like that or recite like that, it's just like, yo, like you're already much further than we are because you have words to put to your feelings that like, it surpasses the things that we knew how to say about our feelings. We still were on Roses Are Red, and I mean, nothing's wrong with that if that's where you're at. Much love, but I'm comforted for the future of our students because at the very least, right now, they know how to share their feelings. So one more time for Sam. Told you I could make a short story long. Coming up next to the stage, I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with this person a few times, and it's always a pleasure. You always get vibes, and you learn something too. And what's better than that? Put your hands together for Oso the poet.
Who I am is Oso the poet. I've been a poet in the CT area for the last 2-3 years, and I just been blessed to be able to go and tour out in other cities and being able to perform. One core memory that I would have without poetry, or I would definitely say it would be the first time that I was able to, meet my OG. His wife, she did my hair, and I remember I was, like when I first started out, I wasn't really trying to share my poetry. I was very kind of self-conscious about it. But once I kind of said that in his presence, he was like, "Oh, you do poetry? Bet, we gonna work together." So, I mean, from then on to now, it's just been something that he's always impacted my development and just been a real inspiration. So, I mean, OG, if you watch, I appreciate you. What keeps me writing? Life, really, just the experiences, not only that myself I go through, but just the people around me. I think I find it very interesting that, from a certain perspective, there are things that happen around you that don't really get documented or don't really get discussed as much. And even for me, it's kind of like from a personal standpoint, there are certain things I'm not as able to articulate in the moment. So when I'm able to go and do that, like in the stage or, being anywhere near it, it's just a blessing to be able to do that. I would say my vision, I would like to be able to continue my career like elsewhere, like going like on tour and being able to go and perform in other states, shoot, even out the country, that'd be even dope. But also just being able to work with youth and kind of get them into the poetry scene, because I really feel like the youth themselves, like they have a lot to say just based off of what they've been through in terms of like just recent events. So that's definitely where I feel like I want to be at, or I'm going to be at. The ability to be in front of a crowd of people and say what I need to say without having fear of like, getting brushed back or someone's talking over me. Because I mean, usually when you're having conversations in, daily life, you have the tendency to have people that talk over you or they don't really listen to you. So you kind of go unheard. And for me, it was one of those things where a lot of my like early years, I wasn't able to be as articulate, or I wasn't able to emphasize those things. So being able to go and do that is something where now it just serves a greater purpose, and it just makes me feel like I'm, healing the person that I was before and just becoming a new person. When I close my eyes, all I see is you. I see the pictures saved in my gallery and sorrow ensues. The colors of our love becoming a darker hue because I hurt you. The contradictions of my true feelings has left me open to the afflictions of my own decisions. It felt like prison when you put your heart in solitary confinement. You were keeping your love locked down. I'd see you around campus, but I realized the distance between us made it hard to communicate because you already closed the gates. So I tried to articulate words of passion and to show you action that emphasized how much you mean to me. I was mentally challenged. Slow to respond as I watched the nights of movie marathons go up in flames as the end credits were rolling, left holding fragments of promise forevers within my mind as the remnants of a heart-shaped hourglass signaled the love in our glass had run dry. I'm sorry. Sorry that I didn't try when you told me it was time to let this die and instead lied about how I felt when it was finally time to say goodbye, and I cried. Raindrops filled with regret to reflect the hollowness I felt inside, and I looked to the sky for the Most High to shield me from the blows of highs and lows, but only God knows the times I've wished to hold you in my arms. Laying in darkness as the playlist cues up the next few songs as we talk about everything wrong with the world. Blessed with the sweetest drug I've ever known as endorphins engulf the room, our souls becoming in tune with the sweet sensual melodies that our heartbeats produce, but now we flatline. So rest in peace to the love that died too soon. But as I consume deep breaths to fight through this monsoon, it's because I can't roll over in bed to greet a face that isn't you. I never knew how to express these sentiments. How could I call myself a poet if I couldn't summon the sentences to help you understand that I wish the ground I stand under turned to quicksand so I could lay in bed with you again? As midnight skies turn orange and as I raise to greet the morning, I realize I'm mourning old memories because how could I ever forget the one who truly loved me? Who shall I be? You know, I ask myself this question as I explore the path of my new profession. Maybe I should be the poet who shares stories about his struggles with depression, about the insecurities he formed with the weapons that prospered against him. I mean, it's hard to imagine how I would fit in with my peers who have been writing for years without feeling like it's a competition over whose pain bears the biggest tears. And I fear behind the wordplay that I employ to deploy verbal spears despite how confident I appear. Someone will break through the smoke and mirrors of my appearance to find a little boy who's still drowning out the shouting from his parents, body trembling in fear from the explosive consequences if he injected sound logic into their flawed perspectives. Terrified if they realize the reason why I'm down the ride for my lifelines is because I'm so used to putting other people's happiness before mine. Mortified if they realize the man making all these great strides created a coffin where his heart was because he got used to people leaving him all the time. I mean, I wonder what's the point in trying? To escape external situations that foster internal nightmares. And I remember nights where I asked for guidance from the man upstairs, but I guess the line was busy, so I was left with unanswered prayers. See, now I'm confused. Now I remember Mom Dukes giving me the free game to life during soap opera episodes. Taught me how to show all my children that they have one life to live, and it's better to be spent bold and beautiful, but be mindful. Because sometimes being amongst the young and the restless is the quickest way for them to end up in the general hospital. Stitching up the wounds from unresolved afflictions, believing they were not given the clearance to be unapologetically themselves, and thinking being different is to be viewed through the lens of shame instead of admiration. So I'll hold their hand the same way I held my own when I could not see the light people saw within my soul. I'll be the poet who preserves memories of futures untold in stories whose authors were not given the chance to see how it all unfolds. Because sometimes healing comes with a price. But I'll roll the dice because even though the trials and tribulations to craft a man standing before you may make my faith waver, I know that fortune favors those that are willing to walk through the valley of the shadow of death with cold feet and no sleep, even if the pain catches up to them later.
One more time for Oso. I think that if there was ever a movie of my life, I'd want it to be like real poetic. And I don't mean like, what's that one pseudo poetic movie called Love Jones? Not Love Jones, not like that, like real poetry, like this poetry. And I'd want the poets here to write my story. So hats off to y'all. We might, huh? No. I want y'all, all of these poets here tonight on this stage. I would trust you with my story. So hats, and that I'm real picky. I'm real particular. So hats off to y'all. Coming up next, I'm I have a little brother, but I would swap him out for this young man. He can hear it. I'll tell him myself. To say I'm proud is an understatement. He's become a mentee from that first Zoom session where I was coaching to him also becoming one of our Youth Slam team members this year. He's done so much, and you'll see why. You'll see why he's made it to where he is, and let him tell it. He just started writing poetry. Whatever. He's just that good. So coming up next, Rudely Interrupted.
Hi, I'm Rudy Murillo. On the stage, I go by Rudely Interrupted. I'm a poet, artist in general. I like to do film. I like to enjoy art in general, and that's really all there is to me. One core memory. It's hard to pick just one, It's really just the experience you get from poetry. It's like the unisys when you hear a good line, It's the laughs you get after a show, the shared memories. It's really just the community itself. What keeps me writing? It's really what stops me from writing, It feels like a compulsion at this point. It's something that's just always been a part of me and something I can't really get rid of. My vision for the future of a poet is really just to do bigger and better things, I picture myself in the middle of Madison Square Garden spitting a poem, I see myself traveling to like San Francisco for an event, Like I said before, it's like a compulsion and it's really just getting it off my chest, Oftentimes, you just have a lot of thoughts buzzing around in your head and it's kind of therapeutic to just let it out there. You never know who hears it. How to live without living. You wake up, go to school, do the bare minimum. Education isn't the goal, a 4.0 is. Follow a schedule you didn't make. Take AP classes and extracurriculars. High school isn't about memories. Prom and football are just distractions. Follow the path your parents set before you. You need to go to Duke like them, don't argue. In this economy, we can't afford to risk like investing in your dreams. Learn to put on a mask. Yourself isn't good enough. Push down feelings like joy, sadness, anger. No one wants to see that. Be likable, funny, smart, but not smarter than your college recruiter. You need that scholarship money, so feed into his ego. Once accepted to Duke, study till midnight. Anything less than 100 means you're a failure. Don't worry about things like traveling, friendship, or new experiences. You're projected to experience new things like burnout, depression, or suicidal tendencies if you haven't already. Push past it. If you need motivation, student loans are a fine one. Think about what you'll do in retirement. Maybe then you can pursue your interest. 60 years of work for 10 of relaxation, now doesn't that sound like a bargain? And remember, most importantly of all, deviation from this plan will result in failure. Thank you. So that was my first poem. I'm gonna do one more called The Struggle. It's kind of like a work in progress, but I still think it's pretty good, so y'all gonna hear it. It's kind of like, at first it started off as like how the trap or like struggling or street violence has been like glorified in a way. And then it kind of evolves into this poem about like, I don't know, missing home in a way. All right, so here I go. The struggle isn't a flex. It's not a lifestyle. It's quite literally a struggle. Not your Halloween costume to dress up in whenever you want to feel hard. Pain and suffering aren't some trendy hashtag for you to get behind, because trapping is exactly what it sounds like, a trap. But when your only options are slinging rock or going hungry, when your only heroes are Biggie and Pop, when that light bill is due and praying ain't getting the job done, the hustle starts to seem like the only chance for people like you and me. An opportunity for economic advance. Look around you. We're in the middle of a war, but you ain't willing to kill, boy? You just gonna let your mama slave away at some 9 to 5? And you call yourself a man? The streets gave you an out, cuz, but you're too scared to take it. What, you think you better than us? I known you since you was this big. And now you're turning your back on the same block that raised you? The struggle is your home. Took your first steps right outside old boy's crib. Spent hours shooting at that broken ass rim, seen Schiffer's body right here. That's not something you just forget. You should be grateful you made it this far. Think about your dead homies. You owe it to them and me. Oh, I get it. You think just because you got a diploma, you got some type of future. Like that piece of paper gave you the white man's approval. And we both know the truth. Every time the white man asks for you to get a mohawk when they don't know the difference between 4A or 3C. Every time your white friends ask if they're allowed to say the N-word when Jay-Z says it. Like they wouldn't say it in private already? Like they didn't just test your gangster? Boy, I taught you better than that. Yet you'd rather play jester to the white man. Brand the suit and tie like that makes you distinguished. Don't you get it? They only see you as a diversity hire. Just a new age house Negro. At least with me, you don't gotta give coffee to the master. Boy, haven't you been watching the news lately? Them little white boys be jacking our style to impress some girl. Say they GDK and throw up some made up gang signs. Might as well spit on your deads and call your moms a like, what you know about a black guy and bloody fists? Have you ever fought for your life? Tell me, when were you introduced to death? Was it your goldfish dying that brought you to tears? Have you ever walked past police tape on your way to school? Now remember, I'm not saying all this to flex, because to me, privilege is the flex. But to be ignorant of our differences, to deny our circumstances, would be the same as saying, I don't see color. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Rudely Interrupted. Connecticut Youth Slam Team 2023. So you see what I mean. I think Connecticut's in pretty good hands. No? Yeah. Coming up next, there's so much to say about our next performer. We met, I think, maybe literally last year, and I feel like I've known her forever. She's amazing, and you will see. I haven't been wrong so far, right? And I'm not really a person that cares about being wrong or right, but in this moment, I'm right. So I want to call Nadia Sims up to the stage, but I also want to say it's been such an honor, like sharing stages with her, having conversations with her. Definition of iron sharpens iron, and let her tell it. She just started writing a few years ago. But like just so brilliant and so much heart and so much truth, and so I hope you all enjoy it. Put your hands together for Nadia Sims.
So my name is Nadia Sims, and I write poetry. I'm also a planner for an aerospace company. Yeah, Collins Aerospace, that's me. So my main core memory, my one goal, I had this showcase for my first book, and I did some pieces from it. And I had my mom in the front row, and she got to see me doing what I dreamed about, which is like doing poetry and having my performance be surrounded about that. And she got to see me, and I got to see her see me living my dream. It was the best moment ever. Like if I never do anything else, I did that. And my mom got to see me do it. Well, poetry is my therapy. It's how I process emotions, it's how I process the word. And performing, there's something edifying about seeing people resonate with your feelings, seeing people understand what you're going through, seeing them get the language for what they're going through. Like, poetry is powerful. My vision, I want to see more projects around poetry, like mainstream, movie, film, poetic projects. I think that poetry is so rich and so vibrant that we need more of it. It shouldn't be relegated to just classrooms. Poetry needs to be on this big screen. It needs to be out in the world. So hopefully I can make that happen.
Introduce me, friend. You did, asked my mother, am I that bad? Am I a hurricane, Mama? Do I destroy homes, displace families? And she answered, yes. You're the storm that no one wants to come to shore, that everyone prays passes by. You bring down power lines and blow fuses. You flood basements and crack foundations. You don't know your own strength. And the terrible truth hiding under the bottom of my heart is, yes, I do. I could end worlds. How do you tell a black hole to dial it back? I thought I was being kind. I swear I was being gentle. I swallow paragraphs and first reactions in an effort to be careful. I was leading with love, so why are there so many dead bodies in my wake? And of course, I think the world and its choices are trash, compost, junk. But I whisper when I want to scream. I simmer out loud when my insides are boiling and it's killing me. I don't like to look too closely at myself. I'm too much. I spill over. I overflow. And every day, I work to contain myself, to lower my voice, to shrink my body, to soften my presence, to shorten the waves and vibrations I send out into the world. I don't like to look too closely at myself. The formula is too unstable, the color is too dark, my presence is off, my tone is off key, my vibes are off beat. A second too fast, a few too slow, my black card is in shreds. And my mind is a scrambled egg. I'm a decade too early, 5 too late, and every day, I work to contain myself. But I'm tired. The wires are rusty. I'm not as quick as I used to be or as fast as I once was, as catching myself before people caught me being off key, being an off key, being an offie. And deep down, I resent the work I have to put in to contain myself, the work it takes for an exclamation point to stuff herself into a period. Poem. I got one more for you. It's called Don't Forget the Mayo. Don't forget the mayo. My mother's potato salad has me in the aisle of the good Walmart. You know, the one where the shelves stay stocked, not the one where the underwear is in a case with a lock, because who knew crackheads like clean underwear? And in this store, they have everything except people who say, excuse me. And I've had to be black all week. So excuse me if my mumbles turn to murmurs, turn to my Samuel L. Jackson stares. I silently dare you to take the last bag of white cheddar puffs, nuck if you buck. Now focus, sis, the mayo. Passing the baby section, the silence of my mother's wish for grandkids hits, and the old argument in my womb begins about how my left ovary is all in, but my right wants no parts. She ain't never liked me since I turned 12. And me and that heifer been beefing ever since. And even though the parts that make me a woman are weak, I've had to be black and a woman all week. So I pushed forward, refusing to weep, and I thought mayo was usually by the salad dressing. Who designed this store, bruh? And at the refrigerator section, comparing prices of meat, and that one's 7 cents cheaper and only a little gray, and I need the extra money. I have to buy test streets, because all week I've had to be black and a woman and a diabetic. And everything has to be no sugar added, but watch out for the Oats brothers. Sucralose and fructose, because they be lying and don't taste quite right. Fake sugar on the tip of the tongue feels like a lie, kind of like Kanye on any given Sunday with his hands to the sky. Or Drake with a stallion reference that's not Megan, yeah, right. Bruh. And also, bye, Tori, bye. And nonsense and noise have chased me up and down the aisles, and girl, if you forget this mayo. Because all week I've had to be black and a woman and a diabetic, and I follow the shade room, and the comments make me want to be single, to torch the earth, and to audition to get abducted by aliens on an expedition expeditiously in that order. Because who wants to be stuck with people who litter and take away human rights? And all week I've had to be a human fighting for rights. like life and the right to decide, because nowhere did I decide to be black and a woman and a diabetic. And I hope they have Hellmann's, because they can go straight to Hellman if they think I'm paying $8 for Dukes. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. And not to mention the cost. Let's talk about the cost of it all, looking for $5 salmon and all they have is tilapia. And child, don't forget the mayo. They don't sell Miracle Whip here. I only have 18 items. I counted because it's the 3rd, and the people with the food stamps are out. Carts overfull with treats, sweets, and goodies I can only dream about, because all week I've had to be black and a woman and a diabetic and middle class. And my check has enough to house me and feed me. Despite inflation and YouTube thinking I'm about to pay to be ad-free, I got 7 seconds all day and my thumb is quick to skip ads as soon as ads become clickable, the way I quit men as soon as love becomes quittable. And someone please tell me how I spent $186 when everything was $350 and I only have 18 items. And shit, I still forgot the mayo. Poem.
Again, did I lie? Nadia has given me so much language for the things that, y'all know I get wordy. And she's been able to put some of the things that I say and think and feel into just really concise lines. And I am so grateful I'm still gonna be wordy, but appreciating the duality. So one more time for Nadia. And we love it when we can get real, but also comedic. So I appreciate her so much. Coming up next, we're getting to the end of our show. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for rocking with us. We're not done yet, but I feel like I need to say that so we don't get to the end and I just be like, all right, y'all go home. Coming up next to the stage, where you go? Oh. I've been on power save mode all week, so this is me. When you turn on a PC, not a MacBook, a PC, and it takes long. This is me. I'm still waking up. Coming up next to the stage, I've had the privilege of sharing the stage with this person as well, and phenomenal on so many levels. Just heart, truth, passion, all of it. I know y'all gonna enjoy it because I haven't been wrong yet, so put your hands together for Phil C. Alexander.
I'm Phil C. Alexander. I'm a spoken word artist from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Been doing poetry for about 2 years or so, and I performed all over the tri-state, just doing different spoken word events as well as slams and motivational speaking engagements at different high schools and middle schools. One of my favorite memories from poetry was actually my first poetry slam, which was in Springfield, Massachusetts. And at that event, I was able to just be surrounded by older poets I had never heard of before that had already been established, as well as poets who it was their first time slamming, but I had no idea because it was my first slam as well. So being in that event, I was able to learn more about myself, about the way I perform, about the way older people perform. So it was a great experience. But what keeps me writing is life. I feel like life is gonna be the best tool for poetry because poetry is something that's very therapeutic. You're gonna write about things you go through, different things that you've experienced. And I feel like the best way to do that is through poetry. And what keeps me performing is knowing that there's people out there that are resonating and dealing with the same things that I've dealt with. So to be able to go on stage and be their voice when people sometimes feel voiceless is, there's no better feeling than that. Of course, yeah, so my vision for the future in poetry, I want to be able to impact the youth as well as just change lives. I feel like I also want to make people feel, because we live in a generation where a lot of people have become numb to life, or they try to distract themselves from things that are going on. So the main goal of my poetry is to make people feel.
Ladies and gentlemen, how we doing? All right. I appreciate y'all. Can y'all hear me okay? All right, cool. So this is actually called Should We Fear to Win? They say the only thing to fear is fear itself, but I question if we should fear the wind. I've seen it traveling in patterns, swaying cyclones like Saturn, unpredictable, along for the ride like tides in the ocean, free-flowing, unknowing its destination because it blows its destiny among the stars. I bet you didn't know there was wind on Mars. They're called Martian winds. They create dust storms very similar to ours on Earth, except these can last for weeks. Avalanches of rolling clouds pushing toxic particles over the hills, through the crevices into valleys and peaks. I thought it was neat, because the way wind swept me off my feet, I thought I was in love. However, if I was on Mars, wind has the same effect that fentanyl does. To embrace the wind like that friend who needed a hug no longer sounds so inviting. If it knocks me down, I still have to pick myself back up like SpongeBob when he saw the cup. I need it. I breathe it like air. I'm not selfish. I don't eat shellfish, so there's enough to share. The wind could seem like special effects, although it doesn't affect everyone the same. Time zones delay the rain. You ever notice why a hurricane is always a woman's name? Because hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Sometimes it pours, which clears the path for flowers to grow, harvest to sow, and the fruits of your labor to multiply in abundance. Like daylight savings, we fall back to spring forward. Oh, how the wind does wonders. I wander and take a misstep only for this to redirect my course. I questioned it at first because what if I get lost? Time costs more than gold. I don't want to get old and regret the misstep for letting it take me away from my plan. Like a cat, I land on all fours, closer to the floor than I've ever been before. Everything becomes soundless. Almost falling on my face made me grounded. It's not fair. I can't touch you, but I could feel you. I can't see you, but I could hear you. You're everywhere, and I can't go anywhere without being near you. I think what I hate about you most is you're so daring. You're so scary. How could you hold the power to alter circumstances, to activate the senses, to cause senseless destruction and act like nothing happened? Unaccountable for your actions, although accountability is understanding every action has a reaction. Properly built foundations make it so that during the building process, there's no hazard of collapse, and often we skip the basics. Stuck in the matrix, listening to Neo, wind makes the time travel slow. I think we going backwards. Black gloves, OJ, the OJs, backstabbers. The wind won't let me win until I understand its pattern. Battered survivors tell stories at times they couldn't take it. Life ain't no BBL, you can't fake it. It goes blessing, blessing, loss. It's a cycle. You gotta be a bull like Michael. You gotta take a look at the man in the mirror like Michael. You gotta take a step back to take a step into your future like Michael. Nights like this, I wish raindrops would fall. That's another Michael for you to do your homework on. I know the wind is grueling. It's unruly. It feels like tedious nothingness. To get through this, you have to accept the hardest step will be starting. It will be departing everything you've ever known as comfort, to dive into a pool of growth even though you don't know if you can swim. The wind is the only thing holding you back and the only thing pushing you forward. The wind is like that compass that's broken. You can't control it, so it's just there. The wind will teach you that gravity is only in your mind and the only thing holding you back from flying is fear. The wind will be that realtor to teach you that fear don't live nowhere around here. The wind will test you. It won't treat you the best, but it will bring the best out of you. The wind will teach you the value of durability. A broken branch through the roof of an SUV. A wind will teach you that if you stop running from it and run into it, it will leave. I'm a tree planted in the Garden of Eden, so you can't hurt me.
Once more, did I lie? No lies told. What I did though was I set myself up, because how I go after that? I could chicken out and say no, but I'm gonna be a tree. So Raise your hand if you're an artist of any kind. Doesn't have to be a poet. Come on, put them up, put them up, put them up. Don't be shy. I'm seeing y'all, even if the camera's not. It's beautiful being an artist, but it also gets tricky sometimes, right? I have a very distinct memory of one of the first times I got paid to perform. And it was at an arts event, and it was in a room maybe a little bit smaller than this, and there was just a bunch of people, and so I came in and I sat and I listened to this other speakers that they weren't performers, but they were speaking about art and things like that, and it was cool. I was nervous, obviously, and then it was my turn, and then I got up and I performed, and I felt like a painting on a wall that nobody understood, but they just walked by and like comment on it in the most pretentious ways because it's art and you're supposed to understand it because you're deep, right? And I never get over that because I didn't feel like that was a space for performance. I didn't feel like anybody could have made it a space for performance, but we go in and we kind of do the dance, right? For the check or for the exposure. So I wrote this poem, not in response to it. I feel like it was, the statute of limitations passed for me to actually be responding to it. But when I wrote this poem, it kind of just synced itself to that memory. And so this piece is called Tiny Dancer. And when I say dance, I mean, tap dancing for the man. When they asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, dancer never cued in my mouth. Even if I knew my options, I never would have chosen something so moving. Trauma bound my feet. Weightless dreams met cinder-blocked realities, and probabilities devoured any brainchild my thoughts could birth before my creative womb even formed. I don't dance. Too much movement begat displacement, and I hated being shaken, physically, emotionally, unopen to the propensity for falling that jumping yields. But all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely moving pieces, shadow-boxed, mounted on the edge of revolving realities. I had been beating myself up over standards I didn't set. Heart lifted to the hands that compensate the gifted, it made me want to dance. I've harped on well done, prompted by back pats that set stages for strings to later be pulled by the Geppetto behind the curtain, up in the skybox looking down for my consideration. The American dream turned out to be a mental illness disguised as sure-footed. Failure is the only building block that lets you know exactly where you stand. I stand. Even with the winds against me, windbreaker to break the push and the pull that tempts me to dance. But all the world's a stage. And all the days merely layers. I longed to be player, new to the game, willing to battle royale for the cause, battle scars. Because if the cause of death is purpose, it will always be worth it, right? They filled rooms with dead presidents, cleared rooms on boardroom tables for us to dance. Stripped down to my dreams, made to twirl in the presence of chances to be somebody. I decided that I wanted to be somebody, but not at the cost of my dignity. Meanwhile, influences prompted me to dig my feet into the soil of the ground they wanted to keep me on. Groundskeeper filling and tilling while weed killer seeped into my soul, poisoning the hole where God planted seeds. All the world's a stage. But a room with too many stars leaves no room for applause. Too many gifts, too many scars, too many kings, too many variations of good enough and good for nothing, vying for the throne of my thoughts. And anything by nothing is scrambling for what it once was. I mean, me times zero is a shell of who I used to be. I said I can't multiply by nothing to get something, but I can add my 100% to the fractions I was given and give it back to Abba. No dancing queen, my father spoke into the void. So why should I fear empty? Empty thoughts yield space for dreaming. Empty hearts leave room for breathing. And even when my hopes set across the sky of another evening, I won't dance for you. All the world's a stage. And the dollar has its string, but my soul has no price, even when my gifts purchase my things. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for the energy, because y'all did that. Thank you to every single one of our performers, our students, our teaching artists. Like, we can't do this without y'all. Thank you to the parents that brought your kids out for this. Thank you to all the supporters, because I know y'all had something better to do tonight. I mean, no, y'all didn't, but also, I appreciate y'all anyway. Thank you. Again, this was a production, so we will be posting the footage online, and we will be sure to link you all. Please be sure to follow us. If you're on Instagram, follow the Poetry Out Loud page at POL Connecticut. There you can see all of the performers from tonight. You can connect with them and see what they're doing, support their work, buy their books, all of that, because they got books. They got books on top of books. So again, thank you all for coming out. This is our show. Get home safe.